I want you to imagine, just for a second, absolute darkness, the kind of profound, unbroken silence that only exists in the absolute deepest spaces between the stars. When we look out into the vastness of space, we know the universe is growing. It's stretching out in literally every conceivable direction. But realizing this forces us to confront what feels like an impossible paradox about the very nature of existence itself. Right? It's a question that honestly hooks directly into our most basic human instincts. From the day we're born, our physical experience tells us that if an object is expanding, say a balloon inflating or a localized explosion, it absolutely has to be pushing out into some pre-existing external empty space. We are completely trapped in this intuitive illusion. We visualize the universe as this massive, glowing sphere of galaxies rapidly ballooning outward, and we just naturally assume there must be an endless, empty void sitting on the outside, just waiting to be filled. And this highlights a deeply ancient human assumption, this ingrained belief that existence requires a physical container, a box, a boundary. We instinctively want to ask, is there a wall at the end of reality? Is there a hard edge where the universe simply stops and the nothingness begins? We've been asking this for thousands of years, desperately trying to put borders around the infinite, mostly just because our human minds crave a sense of enclosure. Now, this perfectly contrasts how our understanding has evolved. For centuries, our ancestors literally drew reality inside closed boxes. Think about the ancient Ptolemaic maps. They placed Earth right at the center and enclosed all of creation inside these rigid crystalline spheres, a tightly bounded container. But modern cosmology, it's revealed something infinitely more profound. There is no outside box. Space-time itself is the absolute totality of everything. Asking what the universe is expanding into is what cosmologists actually call a category error. There literally is no outside space for it to expand into because space only exists within the universe itself. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the hard data. The value 0.0007 carries monumental scientific authority. This is the exact measurement of a parameter called omega sub k, and it was captured by the Planck satellite. We're not talking about theoretical guesswork here. This is incredibly precise data derived directly from the cosmic microwave background radiation, literally the oldest light in the cosmos. The crucial takeaway is that this hard data tells us the exact geometry of our reality. The Planck data proves that the universe is flat to within a 0.4% precision. Now, in cosmological terms, a flat universe means that parallel lines are going to remain parallel forever. Light from the early universe just travels in straight lines without ever bending back on itself. So this data completely points to a flat geometry, proving conclusively that no edge, no curvature, and no boundary has ever been detected by our most sensitive instruments. The container doesn't have walls. And this builds directly into our mathematical understanding. We define this reality using something called the FLW metric. That's the Friedman-Lemaitre-Robertson-Walker metric. It's the scientific model that totally redefines how we view cosmic expansion. It absolutely cements the concept that galaxies aren't physically flying outwards through pre-existing space. Instead, the fabric of space itself is stretching. The underlying grid is growing. And because it's the grid itself that's expanding, it requires absolutely no center point to expand from and zero outer edge to expand toward. Okay, let's stop right here and completely demolish a really common but highly misleading analogy. You've probably heard the expanding universe compared to a balloon being blown up. Actually, scratch that visualization because it tricks your brain into picturing a balloon expanding into an empty room, which again implies an outside. The much better visualization is the raisin bread analogy. Imagine a ball of dough rising in an oven, expanding evenly in all directions. The raisins, which are our galaxies, aren't moving through the dough. The dough itself is generating more space between the raisins. The universe is literally space creating more space from within. So general relativity actually dictates three potential architectures for our cosmic topology, which is just a fancy way of saying the overall shape of reality. First, we have a closed universe with positive curvature, meaning it would be finite. Second, a flat universe with zero curvature, which the Planck data strongly supports and which is possibly infinite. And third, an open universe with negative curvature, which would also be infinite. Right now, the data heavily leans toward flats. But here is the really mind-bending part. Even if the universe isn't infinite, even if it is ultimately finite, it can still be unbounded. What does that actually mean? How can the cosmos be a finite environment while still lacking any physical endpoint or wall? Well, think about the surface of the Earth. If you start walking in a straight line, you're eventually going to wrap all the way around and end up exactly where you started. You will never ever find an edge. You aren't going to fall off. It's a strictly finite area, but it's completely unbounded.
our three-dimensional universe could easily function in the exact same way.
Just stop for a moment and let the profound scale and absolute silence of that void really wash over you. When you sit with that scale, you truly begin to grasp our limits. 46.5 billion light years. That is the massive radius of our observable universe. Because light has a strict speed limit and the universe has a specific age, this sphere represents the absolute limit of what humanity can ever physically see. It's the ultimate horizon of our local reality. But remember, that observable sphere is just our personal localized bubble of light. It's not the whole picture. Constraints derived from both the WMAP and Planck missions reveal something that absolutely dwarfs our observable bubble. To put it into perspective, the total universe, the actual overarching reality beyond our visual horizon, is at least 250 times larger than what we can currently see. And based on that flat geometry we just talked about, it is very, very possibly infinite. This totally forces a shift in our perspective. It invites us into a deeply philosophical contemplation regarding the seamless, boundaryless nature of creation. We're talking about an architecture without walls, an expansion without an outside. Space-time is a continuous, unbroken fabric. It essentially challenges us to abandon our localized human need for fences and borders and to accept a reality that is fundamentally whole and completely self-contained. And this realization is uniquely profound because it seamlessly links our modern mathematical understanding of expansion to ancient civilizational concepts of infinite creation. When we look back at the philosophical and faith-based contemplations of our past, we see striking reflections of this seamlessness. Take this ancient reflection: we built the sky with power, and we are expanding it. It is absolutely awe-inspiring to realize that humanity has been grappling with the concept of a boundless, expanding creation long before we ever had the satellites to measure its exact geometric flatness. This shift in thought is what we call the civilizational witness. Knowing that the universe lacks a definitive edge has fundamentally changed human philosophy. We completely abandoned the search for a cosmic wall. We stopped looking outward for an edge, and instead we turned our focus inward, to mapping the interior architecture of existence itself. We embraced the infinite scale, and in doing so, we embraced a profound sense of humility about our own place within it. Which brings us to the ultimate cliffhanger. If this cosmic container truly has no edge, what exactly is the architecture inside it? What structure bridges those dark spaces we talked about at the beginning? What connects the distant shores of this completely boundless void? Well, that is exactly what we're going to dive into in our next explainer, as we explore the invisible skeleton of reality, the cosmic web. Until then, keep questioning the boundaries.